How can you be a sex-positive parent and deal with porn? I'm Kathy Bertoli from theintimacydojo.com, and I'm here with Jet Setting Jasmine from jetsetjasmine.com and King Noir from kingnoirxxx.com. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So this year at Woodhull Sexual Freedom Summit, you're going to be talking about porn and parents, sex-positive parenting. And I'm really curious, like, what topics are... It's a very... I know there's a lot of feelings people have about whether... How do you deal with that? And so how are you going to address that?
So one of the most important things for us is to really just normalize that it's our job, it's the work that we do.
Yes. And
just like any other industry or form of work, we have responsibilities outside of that work, and part of that is raising our family and providing for our family. So the first thing is just to kind of normalize sex work. I think that's the number one thing, is that it is work, it provides for our family. Yeah. But at the same time, we bring a set of values and ethics into our household that allow us to do our work and also be great parents to our children.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think it's also important, whether it's work or not, sex is a natural part of life.
It really is.
And everybody has, on some form of the spectrum, sexuality, from asexuality to bisexuality, straight, LGBTQ, whatever it is. We all have something about us sexually that's how we express who we are, and it's important for it to be normalized in everybody's lives instead of shamed.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that you're out there showing people that we can enjoy our bodies and different ways we can enjoy our bodies, because I was brought up in a very conservative family. We didn't know about things like, to me, like, I'd heard about porn until I was in college. Like, it was scary. Like, if you watched porn, you suddenly became this deviant person. And I watched it finally with my first boyfriend. I'm like, this is hot. This is fun. I don't feel like a deviant. I feel, well, maybe, but, and I think it is important to, like, children are sexual beings too. We can be age appropriate, but they're discovering themselves. They have questions, and to kind of whitewash everything and say children are not curious, we should not ever talk about anything, or their parents, even TV movie stars do very explicit scenes sometimes, and they'll talk about how they won't take their children to go see them. Like there may be a boundary, but have you had people question your parenting style with your jobs?
Sure, absolutely. I think that the idea of it's hard for people to separate our work from our family life, and that's really not the same way we don't bring our work home and watch it over dinner. It's the same way that we don't share our family in our work setting. Mm-hmm. So I think it's hard for people to sometimes conceptualize that we eat dinner together, we discipline our children, just regular normal family things. Most people don't come home and talk about the intricacies of their work with their children. And so we don't either, and if it's not age appropriate, we're not having those kind of discussions at home. So yeah, people have certainly placed judgment, and most of that is because they just can't conceptualize someone who's in the adult industry being a full human being.
It's really sad how objectified it's somehow, because again, I watch plenty of commercial movies that are not considered porn, but there's very explicit scenes in there, and like, where's the line? Like, if one of the big movie companies do it, it's okay, but if it's porn, it becomes illicit somehow, and people become immediately objectified as very shallow and just in that niche.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think people are objectified in motion pictures as well, the non-porn cinema as well, depending on what kind of films they do. I think especially when it comes to women in general, no matter what a woman is doing, whether it be on screen, off screen, there's a certain objectification and ownership that men take over in regards to women's bodies. So I think when it comes to porn, being that everything is shown and so many different kinds of things are done, then going along especially what men are told about women their entire lives, it becomes like, oh, well, if she does that, then I don't have to respect her anymore, So there's this whole perception, men already have a certain, it's like scales. They already have women on a lower scale of respect, and then if women are doing or showing something else, then it keeps like going down on their pecking order.
Yeah, and I would guess that for people of color that's even more so, and it's so frustrating, and it's hard to counter that because there's so many people entrenched in those beliefs.
Yeah, and speaking of what people of color, and that's one of the other things that we've been touring about is the uniqueness of how people of color are represented in the adult industry. So that can make it even more challenging because not only do we have to kind of confront just people's ideas around sex and sexuality, but there's also this perception of people of color and within the industry that is kind of has a double layer of negative stereotypes. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a lot to kind of come up under, and then on top of that, we're trying to demonstrate that we're not just we're not these stereotypes that are perpetuated in mainstream media or the adult entertainment, but on top of that we are also, again, full human beings, and enjoy the spectrum of life, including raising children, enjoying our families, enjoying other hobbies other than sex and filming.
What are some of the stereotypes people of color run into? If someone's watching, like, they may not be as aware, what stereotypes do you run into when you're in the porn industry?
Well, I think number one, people are, and this goes even without porn, just that we actually own our company.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Yes, you're allowed to do that.
I'm sorry, say what you...
I said you're allowed to, like, that's okay. No, just it's the people would be surprised is frustrating. Sorry, I was being sarcastic.
No, absolutely. I mean, we also own a gym, and there have been times when people have come into our gym and basically are asking us where the owners are, or
even after we've introduced ourselves
and have introduced ourselves as such.
They like can't hear it because it doesn't fit in their paradigm.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the adult entertainment industry and being a person of color, then also it's you have to fit into their certain, like, hey, we want to shoot this scene with you, so we want you to play a thug, or they don't have a lot of scenes where you'll see two people of color in a romantic, passionate, sensual scene. It always has to be vulgar or abusive. Mm-hmm. Being that I'm a lighter skin tone, I've been told at certain times, like, you're not black enough. And I usually ask them to then tell that to the police when they're pulling me over, like, I'm black enough then. But, it's just all these particular perceptions of what blackness is supposed to be or how it's supposed to be portrayed that we run into constantly. For black women, it's usually has to be subservient and completely disrespected. The hip hop perspective, like, you have to be twerking at all times. Like, yeah, you're a lawyer in a law firm setting, but just twerk right now, and we're gonna pour oil all over you. You know what I'm saying? It's consistently degraded.
Or even the descriptions of our bodies. We can be standing right next to our white counterparts, and they're still gonna apply a certain label, like big black cock to a black male, and have the exact same anatomy as, the white doctor who comes home and makes love to his wife. The labeling is very different, and the same thing for women. I mean, I feel like if I did a film and I have a pretty average, well, when I'm not pregnant, average size body, and it'll be like, I don't know, black beauty with big tits and ass, standing next to someone who has, just by measurement standards, a larger anatomy than me, and the labeling will be completely different. And people of color really don't have, and I'll say all performers don't have the liberty of being a part of the conversation of how they're labeled in films. So, you can go in, do your best work, and then come out and see yourself on a label like all what is it, like Black Lives Matter, or making some type of mockery of things that are incredibly important and sensitive in our community. So that's why we own our own company.
I mean, there's recently been a company that shoots a series of white female police officers throwing black males over cop cars and kind of having their way with them, or having them have to fuck their way out of a situation, you know, which is completely oblivious and disrespectful to the people who have been being murdered and abused by police officers, and what even started the Black Lives Matter movement, you know.
Yeah, I'm all for people exploring different kinks and ideas, but that one is like, no, this is something that people of color are facing every day, and their lives are being taken. We cannot make that trivial. We can't make that something to just entertain us a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. There's certainly a place and space for cop fantasies and power dynamics and things of that sort. But when the timing and the labeling and the words and the gestures are so close to what, you know, it's like you don't know if you're watching porn or the news.
Yeah.
Then it becomes quite disrespectful.
Wow. I really appreciate you being out there and doing this work and helping change the industry. Just being more aware is really powerful for people, and you're very eloquent about this. I'm not a parent myself, so I may not be the best person to interview about being the parent side of it. I enjoy them in short periods and then give them back to their parents. Usually they've learned a bad word or two, so I'm not asked to back. So do your kids ever ask you about what your job is, and what do you say if you want to share?
Sure. So they didn't have to ask. This is something that this is a part of sex positive parenting, in our opinion, is that the conversation about sex, sexuality, different stages of sex and sexuality is something that you discuss along the continuum, no matter what age your children are, and again, of course, in an age appropriate way. So when King and I first started working together, we were not doing film work. We were doing like parties and a lot of sex education at the time together. So I told my girls at that time, and they were, I think, 8 and 12 or something like that. They were about 8 and 12. At that time, you know, that we were doing parties to help at the time, women primarily, feel good about themselves, you know, and then it went to that bag in the corner is my adult bag, and it has adult toys in there. And I'm sure they went in the bag.
Well, I mean, if I was a kid, I'd be like, what are adult toys?
Yeah, what are adult toys? And it wasn't that, you know, it was hidden or it was locked away or anything like that. It was just making the distinction that there are toys for adults, and that's my bag, and respect my property like I respect yours. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the same thing. If you look, you will find, like we all did with our parents, probably their porn stashes or their...
Exactly. My dad's Playboy.
Right, exactly. And, but I didn't put any shame. I wasn't ashamed of it. So hiding it was important for me not to hide it, but not to have it in plain view. You know? Yeah. So that was kind of our first set of conversations. And then I think I started doing some like sexy pictures for branding and things of that sort. And the ones that were a little bit more like the ones that you could probably post on Facebook and Instagram, so that level of appropriateness, I would show them. Like, wow, you know, look guys, this picture, I'm so happy with how this picture came out. And my little one would be like, ew, you don't have any clothes on. And the older one would say, like, that looks really good, but you should have pointed your toe a little bit more, something along those lines. But again, this is me showing them confidence in my body and what I was comfortable with sharing. It wasn't like, now that I take nude pictures, you should too. It was, this is what level of comfort I am in my body. And then when we got into the film aspect of things, King and I had an opportunity to talk to them about, we started actually with social media and saying, we want to block you guys from our social media because we're going to start putting some things out on the internet that are not age appropriate.
I really love that you just told them. It wasn't like, we're going to hide it. The kids figure stuff out. They're like,
Really. Yeah. Or, we would say very openly, like, we have a shoot today, and they would be like, I don't know, like, what kind of shoot? And we were like, oh, a video shoot. And they already knew. I mean, like you said, kids figure things out. They learned about explicit material and things like that, unfortunately, and this is kind of the point that we're trying to make to parents, before we had an opportunity, because if they're on the TV, if they can see pop-ups on their tablets, they're already exposed to things that you don't want them to be exposed to, unfortunately.
Yeah, far less positive than what you're sharing with them. It's like, some of it's very dehumanizing.
It really is. And, I kind of feel like, to a certain degree, I approached them, I was kind of behind the 8 ball already. I was sharing with them, my experience, but my oldest one had already found porn on her tablet, so on her, whatever device she was using at the time. And we had a talk at that point in time. This is before I was even in the industry. So really, they didn't have to ask us questions. They didn't learn about it from anyone at school bullying them. They were completely aware and able to defend our family in the way that they saw fit.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Why did you choose Woodhull as your venue to share this time? I love the Woodhull Sexual Freedom Summit. Obviously, I'm doing the interviews, but what drew you to that summit for this?
Well, this year, what drew us there was the last time we were there, which I think was 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Mm-hmm. We did our presentation on being Black in the adult entertainment industry, and it was one of our first larger events where we actually gave that talk. It might have been the first.
I think so.
And everybody who was there had really great feedback. It led to some really great conversations. And the other people that were presenting, the topics they were presenting on, and it was like a very intellectual and open way to speak about sex with people who are also interested in doing the same.
Yeah. And
with this presentation, I think it for us, it was just like, we have to go to Woodhull with it, because it's going to be a place where it's going to be received and spread and shared and talked about, and a great way for us, like that saying, where steel sharpens steel. So we'll be speaking to people who are also giving presentations on sex positivity and just approaching sex in a way that isn't shameful. To be able to be like, well, this is what we're thinking, this is what we're sharing, this is what we're building on, and other people will be able to receive it and sharpen up with us.
I love that. If someone was talking to you and said, I don't know if I should go to Woodhull, I might be too new to the industry, or I'm kind of shy, what would you recommend?
Go to Woodhull.
Don't be shy. I mean, if you don't want to speak, nobody there will force you to speak. I think all of the everything there is not just presented, but experienced in the way that you would want to talk about sex. No one's going to force you to speak on anything you don't want to speak on. No one's going to force you to sit in a presentation you don't want to be at. And if you do have a question, no one's going to belittle you or shame you for that question. Everyone there is pretty open to sharing their expertise, and also people there who are experts are also open to being students as well.
Yeah.
So it's a very comfortable environment. Like I think it's more comfortable than if you just walked up to the wrong person at the wrong time and asked the question. It's like you're gonna ask the right question to the right person if you're there.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really warm place. I really appreciate you being here, Jasmine and King. Do you have any just last tips for someone, if someone is struggling with parenting and porn? Like, do you have some places, a book or a reference you could send them to?
So, really, unfortunately, no. And I don't want to say that this is new or groundbreaking work, I think that people have tried to incorporate sex positive parenting specifically about being in the adult industry and parenting, but there isn't a great deal of information that's out there, which is kind of why we're doing the work that we're doing. But King and I do offer consultation.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we have worked with lots of parents and couples, and even just people that are not in the industry but want to explore their sexuality but kind of have a barrier because they feel that once they're a parent, this other side of them completely shuts off. So, and that to me is also a part of sex positive parenting. How are you empowering yourself sexually as a full being while being a parent, and what are you not giving to your child by exploring that aspect of yourself?
Yeah, that full role modeling, you get to be a full person is amazing.
It is. And that way you don't have to, be a 30-something, 40-something-year-old struggling to find answers about sex and sexuality.
There's all too many of them out there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
King and I do private work with clients, and for those that have some kind of maybe deep-seated issues, maybe some value issues around sex and parenting, or even sex and trauma and parenting, or children experiencing trauma. We also offer a full service therapy, virtual therapy service through Blue Pearl Therapy, in which I am the lead therapist there.
Wonderful. That's fabulous. So they can find you at jetsettingjasmine.com and kingnoirxxx.com. Thank you so much, both of you, for doing this today. I really appreciate everything you shared.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.